I'm going to read for opening words here, Unitarian Universalist affirms. This is by William Schultz. UUs affirm that creation is too grand, complex, and mysterious to be captured in a narrow creed. That is why we cherish individual freedom of belief. At the same time, our convictions lead us to other affirmations. That the blessings of life are available to everyone, not just the chosen or the saved. That creation itself is holy. The earth and all its creatures, the stars and all their glory. That the sacred or divine, the precious and profound are made available not in the miracles or supernatural, but in the simple and everyday. That human beings joined in collaboration with the gifts of grace are responsible for the planet and its future. That every one of us is held in creation's hand, a part of the interdependent cosmic web, and hence strangers need not be enemies. That the paradox of life is to love it in all the more, even though we ultimately lose it. To connect with the great river, we all need a path. But when you get down there, there's only one river. So today, we don't have a guest speaker, but every year we try to have one service where we invite people of the congregation to tell their story, their UU story, how they became affiliated with the UU Church. And so I invite anybody who wants to talk, come up, please. We'll probably try and keep it to 5 minutes a person, if we can do that. And I'll just kick it off to say that I landed here in Southwest Virginia 2001, and I've been part of this congregation since then. And I guess for me, it was, I grew up Catholic, and church was something we did every Sunday. Is something I didn't like to do either, Amy. But my dad made me go, and so I kind of I felt like that was important to have some sense of community for, particularly when I brought children into the world, to have some place, a regular time and meeting place where we had a community that the children grew up around that was beyond just school or play dates or partying friends or whatnot, just more a collective of minds that shared similar values. And maybe they don't hear it directly, but I think through osmosis they pick it up. So that's I guess one reason I've committed to the church is because of family, and also that I find it just that the people here are a wonderful community. It is, and you don't have to be perfect, as I've demonstrated. And I like that. I like that we don't have to take ourselves too seriously. And so, anyway, that's what led me here. And also, there's not much of a choice when you get beyond a certain, I feel, a certain way of thinking. There's not a lot of options in this area. So, and I like it small. So a small gathering of people is intimate and makes me feel like it's part of more of a family and a warmth. So anyway, if there are any others that would like to share, please.
I just want to say for my husband Rudy and I'm Chris Yates, and my husband Rudy and we've been here about a year, maybe a little over, and it's a joy to be here. And what Harry was saying before about the young people, it's great to see. And Lisa, your daughter's name is Jenna. You're such a ray of sunshine, and it's just great to see the mix of generations here, and it really does feel like a community, and it's a special place, and we've really enjoyed being here a lot. So I just wanted to say that we're happy to be here. It's been a couple of years since we left a traditional Christian church, and so we didn't do anything for a while, and it's just the sense of community that you were talking about that really is lacking. If you want to back away, as we did, from traditional beliefs, to still find the community and the sense of caring about one another here. That's all I wanted to say.
Would you like the pulpit?
Sure, why not? Sure.
My story may be a little bit different than many of you because I'm actually a native of Bristol. I was born in Bristol, raised in Bristol. Pretty much have stayed in the area. I attended college at East Tennessee State, so that's, I went all the way to Johnson City. So, and I was raised in the Southern Baptist Church, a large church in Bristol. And there were things about it I liked. I liked the idea of being kind to one another, the golden rule. But as I got older, I began to question because there were just things I noticed going on in the church that didn't quite mesh. And I started asking questions, and my questions were not appreciated. And I was chastised pretty much for questioning some of the things I saw going on. For instance, I asked the question, why are there no black people in our church? It was the 60s, and, and it was like, well, they don't want to come here, and I'm like, okay, and I asked questions, I just started asking questions, there were many questions I asked, and, they were not appreciated and not answered in any way that I felt comfortable with. So as soon as I was able to get out from under what I once called the religious oppression, I quit going to church. When I went to college, I never went to church. once I got married and started my own household, I never went to church. And I missed it. Oh, another thing I did like about church is I became very involved with music. We had an excellent music department, a very good director. I learned so much about music in my church, and was very involved in all the choirs and all this stuff. And once again, I ran into a little bit of a problem there. I was I think I was a freshman in high school, and my director asked me to be in the adult choir. And I ran into a lot of jealousy there. There's some of the older adults, they did not want me in their adult choir at the church. And I'm thinking, we're at church. We're supposed to love one another. And here these people are very jealous and don't want me here. This doesn't mesh. So anyway, once I was able to not be forced to go to church, I quit going. But as I got older, kind of like you said, Shane, especially when I had children, and I started looking for another church environment where my ideas might fit in, where I wouldn't be told what to think, and where I could freely feel the way I felt and perhaps explore different ideas and not have to settle on one way of thought and that's it. And if you don't think this way, you're going to go to hell. And so it came about kind of a weird way. I had a copy, well, it actually wasn't mine, but I ran across a copy of one of those books that just it's an encyclopedia of knowledge. Just different little blurbs about all kinds of things, and there was a section about religions. So I was reading about different religions, and that's where I first read about Unitarianism, Universalist Unitarians. And I read about that, and I thought, wow, that sounds pretty interesting. And I thought, there can't be anything like that around here. So I looked... let's see, I think that was before we had a computer, but I don't know that internet searching was all that popular then. But I asked around. Because I think I went to school and asked people, have you ever heard of the Unitarian Universalists? And actually another teacher had heard of a church in Gray. And I thought, well, I don't know. I don't think I want to drive to Johnson City. But then I found out there was one here. This building had just been built, so I missed all the box church and the meeting in Bob's office and all that. I showed up, I think, a couple of weeks after this building opened. I hit the sweet spot, I guess. But I think Sean... the day I showed up, Sean was speaking. He was doing some of his readings. I walked in and I was sitting in the back, and Sean was reading something he wrote, and it was way out there. And I was sitting there thinking, man, this is not like any church I've been in. And I thought, I think I'll give this a try. So I kept coming, and I thought, I like the free thought here. I like what I'm seeing here. The only thing I didn't like was there was a complete absence of music. So once I decided that I would stick around, I made it my goal to try and get more music in this building. So, and that was in 1996, and I'm still here. You're still stuck with me. But I think it's very important that this church still keep going, because, as you pointed out, Shane, there's so few alternatives in this area. We talk about social work in our area and how we need to do social justice, whatever. This church is social work, just providing this as an alternative. This is something we do for our area. So we need to keep this going no matter what it takes. I mean, that's my personal belief. I'm here on the pulpit, so I'm speaking my views. But I think it's super, super important. I really do. Okay, so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thanks.
Hello? Are you okay? Yeah. Just very briefly. Long before many of you were born, I found my way to the Unitarian Church in Richmond. I, too, grew up in this area. I was from Abingdon and took off. And when I went to college, I did my shopping around, Greek Orthodox, Catholic, synagogue, whatever. But, of course, joined the Baptist Church because one had to have a church home. But in my process, I met a wonderful, this is long before Bob Hill, met a wonderful young Jewish medical student at MCV, and we were fascinated with each other's culture, me being a mountain girl and him being from New York City. So we decided to get married, and the rabbi wouldn't marry us, and the Baptist minister wouldn't marry us. So in my shopping around, I had run into the Unitarian Church. And Bill Gold was the minister there. He was always in trouble in conservative Richmond, always in the paper, because he was very short, had tiny little feet, but when he spoke, he was a mountain of a man, and he got Richmond very upset. So this young man and I went to him and said, "Could you marry us?" He said, "Well, I just married a Jew and an Arab last week. I think I could marry a Baptist and a Jew." So I said, "Okay." He said, "Okay." But long story short, that didn't work out. And a little bit later, I stayed at the Unitarian Church, and I ran into a folk singer, and the rest is history. That was Bob Hill. So that's how I got into the UU Church.
I'm afraid of that thing. I got to this church partially because my husband and I love art. And we were living in Massachusetts in 2006. And we had an opportunity to just pack up and move. And it was time. We were tired of the winters there. Our family, our parents were all gone, and we didn't have any children, so we had no ties to Massachusetts. So we just decided to find a nice place to live. And we came across a book that was the 100 Best Small Art Towns in America. We went through the book. We knew a lot of the towns already, especially the ones in the New England area. But there was Abingdon was included in this book, and the more we read about Abingdon, the more we wanted to find out whether we wanted to live there. So we took a trip. Actually, we took about 5 before we actually moved here, and we love the area. So we bought a house in 2006, and that was the end of November. And we read in the paper that there's going to be an art show at the Unitarian Church in Meadowview. And it turned out that Libby Scoggin was showing her art here, and a photographer, I believe. And so we came that winter night, and we met Adelaide and Dyer Moss and I forget his name. And Allison Linder and her mother were here. And there were some flyers, programs, I should say, in the church. And we started reading about them, and we read about the 7 principles, and it sounded interesting. So in addition to falling in love with the art on the walls, we became interested in this place as a church. I had grown up as a Catholic, and like Amy, when I got to be college age, I had too many questions that didn't get answered. And once I had a car on Sundays, I can remember being in my early 20s and pretending to leave the house and go to church. And one day, my father followed me, went to the church, drove around the parking lot, didn't see my car there. So later that Sunday, he asked me why I wasn't at church and why I had lied about going. And I told him the truth. I just felt no connection to the Catholic Church and just wasn't going anymore. I was 21 after all, and I could decide that for myself. Shortly after that, he was okay with that, and I think he and my mother stopped going to church too after I left. But I moved out on my own when I was 21, and I just stayed away from church. I just didn't see anything that appealed to me. The only thing I knew about the Unitarian Church was what I heard in jokes, unfortunately, usually made by other, Protestants, making fun of the Unitarians for whatever reason, and I never understood what that was all about. But then I got married, and my husband wasn't going to a particular church either, so we just never went. But once we moved here, we realized joining a church would be a great way to meet people. And fortunately, we fell into the right church, because I discovered that I had always been a Unitarian. I just didn't know it. And I've heard other people say that too. And it just was comfortable from the first time we came. And we've been here ever since. And that was 7 years ago. So that's about it. But no matter if we should ever move out of this area, I know we'll find another Unitarian church, because it just fills a void in our lives that we didn't even know we had until we came here.
I'm kind of the ancient Unitarian in the bunch. I come from a family of basically Scottish horse thieves who were hung, and others who didn't have much interest in religion. But it was one of those families where every Sunday the kids get marched off to church while the adults stayed home and drank coffee. And so nobody in my family had ever gone to college, but over dinner one evening I announced that I was going to college and I had been accepted, which shocked the hell out of my family. So anyway, when I got to college, I fell in with a group of intellectual hippies, and every Sunday we would go to a different church, and the Unitarian Church was the only one I ever went back to. And so this was in 1959, and so I've been bouncing in and out of Unitarian churches since 1959, and I became fairly involved in the Unitarian Church in Richmond. And my wife became the president, and I became the person in charge of every member canvass, because the church was always in financial trouble. So I did that for a while, and then I worked on what is known as the Richmond Public Forum, which is a forum that every year brought in guest speakers. And so as a result, I had an opportunity to have dinner with Ronald Reagan and John Chancellor and Moshe Dayan. I'll tell you a funny story about that. I was sitting beside Moshe Dayan in a restaurant, and the owner came over and said there was a bomb threat. Well, I nearly choked on what I was eating, and I was grabbing my things prepared to run out of the restaurant, and Moshe Dayan looked over at me and said, "I've heard that shit before." And he just kept eating. Well, my food did not go down very well, but Anyway, during college, I joined the Marine Corps, and I want to tell you, there are atheists in foxholes. I'll guarantee it. I've been there. And so Jane and I attended the Richmond Church regularly, and then we moved to Abingdon. And when I married her, she said, "You don't have to worry, I'll never take you home." She lied. So anyway, after we got here, we would make the drive to Gray periodically. And then one morning, Jane announced to me, "I'm going to start a church in Abingdon." I said, "Who are you going to get to speak?" And she said, "You." And so, Lord, how I've suffered through the buying of the land and the building of the church and the establishment of what we have here. And I have to say, years ago when we started this thing, Jane said, "Well, what do you want?" I said, "I'd like to have a church where all I have to do is go." And, you know, I'm a dovetail on what Harry said. It is so nice to see this church going without us having to carry the whole church in a box and unload it at wherever we happen to be, you know, being a church in a box. So anyway, thank you all for being here, and thank you for being my friends.
So I'm from Vermont, and I'm also a Catholic refugee, like some others here. Grew up Catholic, and we had to go to religious ed classes every week, and I started questioning, you know, the Catholic doctrine when I was in middle school. And I started asking so many questions that all the other kids in the class were like, yeah, you know, what about that? What about that? And, you know, I think the teacher was like, didn't know what to do. So, you know, he called in the priest, and the priest basically gave us this lecture on the importance of suspended disbelief. And, you know, that wasn't really that satisfying to me, but I kept going because my parents wanted me to go. And then when I was in 9th grade, we had to start doing all the confirmation stuff, which was like a pretty big deal. And, you know, we had to go on all these retreats, and it was kind of a big commitment. And I didn't want to do it. You know, I felt like I was kind of at a crossroads where, you know, I just had to admit, I don't believe in this, and, you know, I don't want to do this. And people said, you know, family and friends were like, "Well, don't you want to get confirmed just so that if you ever do decide to be religious, you'll have something?" Like, and I said, I feel like that's even worse, to get confirmed in something you don't actually believe in, just to have it as a backup plan. So I wasn't really sure what to do, but I had a good friend who went to the Unitarian Church in Burlington, Vermont. He said, "What, you know, you seem to have those kinds of values. Why don't you just come and check it out?" And so I went, and I really liked it, and everybody was really welcoming, and there was a really great youth group there. And so, you know, I told my parents that I really liked it, and they were like, "Well, maybe we should check it out." And so they went once, and they never went back to the Catholic Church, and, you know, that was kind of that. And I just feel like everywhere I've been, the Unitarians have been really welcoming and kind, and, you know, just open in a way that the Catholics never were. So I appreciate that. And especially, you know, coming here, I moved here in August and didn't know a single person down here. So I really appreciated, you know, having the church to come to. So thank you.
Oh, I love telling stories based upon experiences that I have and other people share with me. So, church, I realized early in life, is not really important at all. You know, it's just a group of people that feel comfortable with each other, right? And like you said, a small group is better than, 1,000. And you see some of these church things on television, big master choirs, and, they make a lot of money. And early in life, I realized that I was lucky because my parents were both immigrants from Germany, all leaving around or shortly after World War I. Some escaped early, and others got almost stuck in a concentration camp. And I was born here. And I think they decided, well, religion's important, but how important? So, one had been traditional Eastern Catholic and another more traditional German Lutheran. And then they sent me to a Presbyterian church because you only had to cross one street to get there, so the kids could go on their own. They were safe. And, of course, there were a bunch of old Scots in this church. I mean, very traditional Presbyterian church. And then I decided, well, I could sing in a choir, and somebody said, why don't you sing at an Episcopalian church? They pay you money. I said, okay, fine, I'll do that. Then I went back to my Presbyterian church, and then some of the lessons they taught during the day, the Presbyterians had a different perspective from the Episcopalians, so I would start saying, well, how come so-and-so says so-and-so about the Bible or Jesus or whatever, and you say this, so I started to promote a little argument there. But I was really fortunate because I realized that my mother believed in astrology, in psychic abilities, and all kinds of things that, none of the churches really talked about. I mean, the Catholics might have referred to it as, in the old days, when miracles happened and stuff like that. So, I began to argue with the teachers, and pretty soon I realized that wasn't very good. And then I ended up in a summer camp that was run by some Southern Baptists. And, of course, that was a totally different experience. But what I really find is sharing feelings and thoughts and ideas with people, I think that's why I'm here. Because I'm a wanderer, just like Jack. Remember? And, and it's a wonderful thing to share the thoughts that change, as we learn, as we, new horizons open up. And when you're 60, you maybe think one way. When you're 40, another. Who knows? If I live long enough, 110, I'll be talking to somebody, I guess. But I think the sharing is the great idea. It doesn't matter where you are or who you're with. Every day something comes up that's just wonderful. And I think that opportunity to be with people that are open to just, wow, life is really great. And this is the place right now. It may not be tomorrow, but it's right now, and right now is forever in my mind. So, thank you. I love you all.
Thanks. We actually may end on time today. Thanks, everybody, for sharing. Those are wonderful sharings. And I just have a quick thing to end with. Oh, we have music. Yes, we do.
I thought for Thanksgiving it would be good to sing the traditional hymn, "'Tis the Gift to Be Simple," or "Simple Gifts," or whatever it's called. So I'm going to sing it twice, and you're welcome to sing along, the first time, or wait until the second time, or whatever you want. Oh, it's in the book. Okay. Well, that's perfect. sorry, I should have figured that out beforehand. Sorry? I'm 16. 16? Are we ready? If you want to, you don't have to. 'Tis the gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in a place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come around right. Okay. Unless you want to sing it again.
L.B. Fisher. We, Unitarians, are often asked where we stand. The only true answer to give to this question is that we do not stand at all. We move. Coffee and conversation.